toy.
We wanted men.
I have spoken.
All right, so we all took a pee break, which was 5 minutes for us, and it's a week for you guys. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody in America. Do they celebrate Thanksgiving elsewhere? Probably not, because it's
Canada.
American
It's in October.
Okay, but it's
the
not
start of the harvest. Oh God, what the hell? It's like some sort of harvest season. That's what I was trying to go with. Anyways, it's Winter Social Week.
Yes, Winter Social Week, time to party. So we're gonna have to record weird next week too, because Saturday will be full of Winter Social stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to mention
beer and beer.
Yes, beer. If we can even get up early and record on Sunday, we may be hungover.
I wanted to mention the 3D printing because I had talked about that. I finally finished my 3D print of my Shore Trooper helmet, but it doesn't fit over my head. It is too small for my head, so I'm still learning, but I'll figure it out. I got to upscale it, but my print bed is only so small. I have to learn how to split the prints, so this is a whole lot of learning. There's a learning curve involved, and I'm trying to print a C-3PO head right now because when you come in for the Winter Social, there's a tree right there, and that's going to be the gold tree with gold ornaments. And for a tree topper, I was going to put C-3PO's head.
Cool.
So the first time I printed C-3PO's head, I kind of had him face down, and that created a lot of layer lines where it almost looked like he had a Grinch nose, kind of like the Who's from Whoville. They kind of have that weird nose. And so there's something weird going on. So I printed him face up or face out, just like normal, and it looks a lot better. It was a 19-hour print, but at the last few minutes, the top of his head didn't print.
Oh, geez.
So now I have to, but it looks fine.
Yeah.
Right.
But, if I were to put it together, it just wouldn't look right. So I got to redo that whole thing. So it's printing now, but now I have this extra C-3PO head. Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Is 3D printing going to be like the fax machine of the future? You think about in the 70s, the fax machine, it took like 12 hours to print.
Yeah, maybe.
And, in another 5 years, they'll have 3D printers where you could print that thing out in like 5 minutes.
Right.
I mean, you got to think NASA wants to use this stuff in space. And if you need a tool, you need to 3D print a tool. You're not going to be on Mars waiting a day for the tool. You got to do something faster.
Well, just think about like the Jetsons. You were watching the Jetsons back in the day, and they sent somebody something in a car, like tickets to an event that night. And you're just like, what? That's crazy. And we're living in the future.
The future is now.
Oh, goodness. Go ahead, Jason. Were you going to say something?
We normally make up news on double episodes like this from the previous week. Do you have any news you want to share?
Shoot, I was going to say something about Thrawn, but I can't think fast enough.
Harrison Ford is going to be in Solo 2?
Yes, they're remaking Solo 2 with Harrison Ford as the lead. 50 years in the future.
Yeah. After he's dead, he comes back as a Force Ghost memory. And he goes on a whole new adventure with Chewbacca.
Chewbacca's like 700 years old, and then the moon falls on him.
We'll see Lumpy in this sequel too. So
yes,
they casted Shia LaBeouf as Lumpy,
and Darth Maul gets his legs back.
Well, no. What you got to do is the legs come back, and it's got a robot body, and he wants to take over Crimson Sun. So then Darth Maul needs to fight his legs to see who's going to come out as the victor of Crimson Dawn.
Right.
There's the movie.
And they're building a Star Wars hotel in Georgia, so we can all go tomorrow
In Woodstock.
and it'll be free.
Salacious Crumb is getting his own movie where he just throws fecal matter at people.
Yeah, I don't know
Gonna
about
be a-
these back-to-back episodes, man. You guys are deteriorating fast.
Well, I was going to get a beer, but then I looked at the time and it's only 10:45. So
I started to grab one earlier. I was like, I grabbed my V8 instead. No, your old win.
There you go.
So we're kind of going to do a little bit of a twofer today. We're going to go over vintage pricing, and then Jerry has got a very interesting focus. He focuses on Sears and Sears memorabilia, Sears exclusives and stuff. So we want to get into that with him and hear his story and how he got into it. So let's go into some vintage pricing. But Jerry's here again, guys. Hey, Jerry.
Hey,
Hi.
Jerry. Welcome back.
This is fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's like Family Feud, where they do the entire week's episodes in a single afternoon.
Right.
Yeah. We've got 4 more after this, so I hope you've got that beer handy.
You had no plans today, right?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
No, hanging out with you guys. You're an excuse to not have to clean and get ready for relatives.
All right, awesome. Well, when your wife yells, you can call us up and yell at us. She gets, yeah.
She won't be home till tomorrow, as long as I get it done.
Oh. She'll be pulling in the driveway and you'll be doing the old school 80s. Oh shit, she's here.
So when we last did vintage pricing in early 2021, we looked at the original, 96 figures?
Yeah.
And we came up with the price if you were going to start in early 2021 with no figures and you're going to buy them off of eBay in relatively good condition, not AFA graded, with a blaster or whatever sidearm that they had, it would cost you $6,382 to buy all of those figures. So now I'm going to go through what we did in 2021, early 2021, and compare it to now. I've looked at eBay and I had the same parameters where it had to be in relatively good condition. There was a lot of Luke Skywalker, on Tatooine, Farm Boy, whatever you want to call him, yellowed. He had yellowed like shirts and stuff. And so I didn't count that as a price. I was a little bit more scientific because I took 3 or 4 different the sold prices and made an average of that. So I wasn't doing the guesswork, just trying to get a rough estimate. This is more of an exact median of what I was seeing. So again, if I say, for example, FX7, the medical droid, early 2021, we had $12. Now he's $10. There was some for $7, there was some for $15, but on, the average is about $10. So he's gone down in price. Dengar, surprisingly, $12 in early 2021. Now he's $10. Rebel Commander, for whatever reason, he was $12. Now he's $18. General Madine was $15. Now he's $14. Chewbacca was $16. Now he's $20. General Veers or AT-AT Commander or AT-AT Commander or All-Terrain Attack Transport Commander, whatever you want to say, he was $16. Now he's $14. So right off the bat, you're kind of seeing that things are staying the same, but quite a few have kind of dropped in price. The Emperor was staying steady at $17. He hasn't changed at all, no fluctuation. R5D4, now this is interesting. We had him at $18. He's up to $40 now.
Jesus.
Wow. Which figures?
And I'm wondering what's that?
Which figure?
R5D4.
Oh, wow.
He's jumped. And I'm wondering if it's people are wanting to refine what they had. So like they want a better sticker or something like that.
That's the thing that I think the R2s, the R5s, and the power droids that have those paper stickers, that's a big variable on those. You look at the prices that R2 is going for. It's hard to find one where the sticker's not yellowing to some degree.
Right.
And those spiked a few years back, and honestly, I haven't seen them come down a whole lot. So I think that paper is a big variable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stickers, peeling. I mean, they were heavily played with.
Mm-hmm.
So you got the human oils on it, and or as I guess as you say down here, oils. Human oils.
Earls.
Oils.
I heard
Now,
the
was
glue was the biggest contributing factor to the yellowing. Is the actual,
Was it?
the glue on the inside of the sticker?
Yeah.
And I'm sure climate, whatever, heat, humidity, those types of things all cause variables in it.
So was that just for a normal one that wasn't for a red bar?
Right. Not red bar. It's just a normal R5.
Jeez.
Reuse staying steady, $18 at the start, $18 now. Nick 2 was $18 at the start. Now it's $20. Bosk went down from $19 to $15. So that's another decrease. Han Solo and Hoth outfit was $20. Now he's still $20. Lando's gone down from $20 to $15. Han
And that's
Solo
just a regular Lando, right?
Regular Lando, not the general. Han Solo in his Bespin outfit, he's staying steady at 20. It's 20 at the start, 20 now. Same thing with the Ugnaught. Oh, actually, Ugnaught dropped to 15 from 20. So the Ugnaught was 20 at the start, and now he's 15. 21B, he was 20. He's still 20 today. Lando in his skiff guard disguise was 20. He's not 19 now. Weekway, this one made me scratch my head. He was 20, and right now he's $9 averaged.
Jeez.
Yeah, so he's the cheapest of what I found this week at $9 by $1, but still he's the cheapest. Han Solo in the trench coat with the blaster, he was $20. Now he's $35.
It's all about the blaster with that one.
Yeah. Was that a unique one?
Because solid black. It was one of the latter ones. It was in solid black, like the Stormtrooper blaster.
Gotcha.
And people want that specific one. I've seen just the blaster sell for $35 or $40.
Wow. And I wasn't paying attention to, there's the variants in the trench coat. I was just looking for a good condition. There was a couple there, and it didn't seem like it mattered, to be honest, if it had the pattern or the no pattern on the trench coat.
It's like the smile versus no smile on the Lando.
Yep.
Right.
It's a subtle variance, and in the long run, I don't know that it makes that big a difference. It's personal preference more than anything.
Chief Chirpa was 21. He's 25 now. Walrus Man was 22 at the start. He's still 22. Lobot has gone from 22 to 17. So again, another decrease. The Imperial TIE Pilot, he was 22. He's now 15. 8D8 was 22. He's now $11. He's averaging about 11. Clat 2, not the skiff guard version, the regular one. He was 22. Now he's 15. The skiff guard Clat 2, and I don't think I did this right. It didn't matter if he was in the skiff guard outfit or the Jabba's palace outfit. He was $15 both ways.
I would have thought that the soft goods would have caused the regular Klaatu to have some variation, because sometimes it's hard to find those. A lot of the skirts are starting to break down now.
Oh, really?
The layers are coming apart, or sorting part, like the pleather stuff is starting to rot on certain ones.
Yeah, not what from what I saw on eBay. Everything looked like it was in good condition. People were posting near mint. I didn't go through with a fine-tooth comb and look at each and every. I'd just be there all week long looking at the listings and trying to find out, is this a good, skirt or whatever. But
this brings up the whole conversation with the retro line. Because there's a whole segment of the community, they want the retro line to do all of the originals, to redo the entire original line. And I'm like, you can still buy the originals for a couple bucks more than what, a new one. I mean, I get it. You maybe want it on a card or something like that, but yeah, I just don't really see Hasbro going down that path and doing some of the more obscure characters. I think they're going to stick to more of the hero characters and the villain characters.
Well, it's interesting. Sorry, go ahead, Glenn.
No, I think with that retro line, they may finish it off where they're going to do the return and then maybe shut it down.
Yeah, for the original, I definitely think it's going to be, I think what we saw with the Last Jedi and the Solo lines that, let's be honest, really killed that 5 points of articulation during that, sequel trilogy sort of period. I think this is going to fill that void. This is going to be that inexpensive 5 points of articulation, $10 line. That's what this is turning into. So you have to, make it have this sort of retro feel to it or whatever, but it's still, it's the same price point.
A couple
Right.
interesting points, when I was doing this and thinking about the retro line, because after this, we're going to talk about figures that we wish Kenner had made and never got to, and possibly something they could do in the retro line. Looking at R2D2 and C3PO, making sure that they had tight limbs and the chrome wasn't, fading or rubbing off. Hasbro hasn't done an R2D2 or C3PO yet in the retro line, and that might be because of the vac metallization.
Yeah.
They've stepped away from that for Star Wars. I don't see them doing that for Star Wars.
Yeah,
Right.
I've wondered
Retro
about
line.
that too. I've seen a lot of people asking that question if they were going to do that, because obviously you got this environmental thing that they've got tied to the vac metal, but they're doing it for Transformers, so I don't see the double
It doesn't hold
standard.
water. I think it's more of an expense thing.
Yeah,
Looking for ways to cut costs.
they'll
If
probably
they
do it as like a convention exclusive or something. Down the road you get the pair.
right. If they do an R2D2 in retro, which version do they do? Sensor scope, or do you do the pop-up lightsaber?
I think it's going to depend on what movie they're tying it to.
Yeah, if it's the Jedi
Well,
line, it'd be
if
a
it's the Jedi,
great chance to bring it back.
Yeah.
and make a mint, because that, as
That's
you'll
one of the
see,
expensive ones.
is the expensive one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really, of the original line, it is. Even though I really see it as a variant. That's just me, but yeah, that's the big bucks.
IG-88, the bounty hunter, he was 23. He's now 25, which I kind of thought he might jump up because of IG-11,
Yeah.
but no, that's not what I saw.
Well, he's got 2 weapons. That's another variable for him, I think.
Yep. These had the weapons. So Imperial Commander was 24. Now he's 20. 9 Numb was 24. He's 25 now. This Death Star Commander, or the Star Destroyer Commander, was 25. He's now 15.
The 9 Numb is that's another variant weapon, because he only came with the black blaster. He had the pilot blaster like TIE Pilot and Cloud Car Pilot, but it was only in black. So I don't know why they were doing that in Jedi. They were experimenting, maybe. I don't know.
All right.
The Bespin security guard, I had him at 25, and he's 25 still now. There was Bespin security guard 2, and I can't remember which one was which. There's one that's, of color, and I can't remember exactly which one was which again. The second one I had is 32, and he's 25. So it really didn't matter now if it was the white version or the black one.
Yeah.
They were both $25.
Huh.
Forlom, this was a bit confusing because obviously Kenner messed that up, Forlom and Zuckuss. So I went with, back then and today, I went with their actual names.
Yeah.
So I had to search Forlom to find Zuckuss.
Yeah. That's how I search it. I mean, it's what the old schoolers call him.
So so Forlom is 25. He's still 25. He was. The Emperor's Royal Guard was 25. He's now 34. So he's gone up in price. And it's probably the soft good, those things are starting to deteriorate a little bit too, and fray at the edges. Hoth Rebel Soldier was 26. He's now 16.
Wow.
Gamorrean Guard was 26. He's now 23. The Rebel Commander was 26. He's now 17. Squidhead, this one scratched my head. 26. He's now averaging 60.
That's soft goods, and he's got a specific color weapon. He has it's the Bespin design, but it's in gray. So
Do you think
sometimes
it's
that'll cause some variables as well.
You maybe think it's because him showing up in Mandalorian?
Could be.
Did
The
he?
Fortuna's definitely going up.
Well, it's not a squid head, but you had the
species.
species were in Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if that's
Fine.
the case, I would expect IG-88 to bump up, and he didn't.
Hmm.
Your boy Greedo, he was 29 at the start of the year. He's now 23.
Yeah.
Hammerhead was 29. He's now 11.
What? Wow.
I should pick up a Hammerhead. I don't think I.
Those
If
were
I
the
do
peg
have it,
warmers back in the day, and they've always been plentiful. I mean, they were early in the line, and they did a carded version for every line. I mean,
right.
they even had protos for the ones for Power of the Force, but yeah, those have always been. I remember back when you could get them like $10 a pop all day. Now they're starting to have some variation. Hammerhead, you don't have the paint issues that you do with, say, Walrus Man. You can never find a Walrus Man where the toes don't have on them.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, like you're saying, like the Squid Head was only released in the Return of the Jedi line.
Yeah.
But Greedo, Hammerhead, the Power Droids, they were all released Star Wars, Empire,
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi. So there's just more of them out there. Speaking of the Power Droid, he was 30. He's dropped to 23. R2D2 with the sensor scope, he was 30. He's now 34. The Biker Scout was 30. He's now 23. Log Ray, the Ewok Medicine Man, was 30. He's now 18. Bib Fortuna, like you were just mentioning with the Mandalorian, he was 31. He's now 17.
Wow, that's
Jeez.
weird.
Yeah, with the belt, with the cape, with the staff and everything, he's dropped in price.
Huh.
Snaggletooth, he was 34. He's now 25. Blue Snaggletooth, I had him as an average of 202 on eBay, and today he's gone up to 322.
Yeah. That one's sort of his own thing.
Yeah, he's a little bit different. The B-Wing pilot, he was 34. He's dropped to 17. C-3PO, he was 35. He's dropped to 17. The Luke Skywalker X-Wing pilot, he was 35. He's dropped to 24. And I try to pay attention to the Rebel symbol on his head because I know that can, scratch off with the wear and stuff in the play. So everything I saw seemed like it had all the paint applications still on it. So that's something to note with that figure. It's still $24. Admiral Akbar, I had him at 35. He's dropped to 18. Again, you're seeing, I don't know what website you're using, Jerry, but from what I saw on eBay, everything seemed to be dropping for the most part.
Yeah.
Tebow, he stayed strong at 35. He was 35 at the start of the year. The Death Star droid, good chrome and everything, tight limbs, $36 at the start of the year, 17 now. The same price as C-3PO.
Huh.
The Rancor Keeper, he was 36. He's dropped to 27. The Tusken Raider Sand Person, I didn't pay attention to, hollow holes or anything like that. Just making sure he had his staff, his cape, everything looked clean and good. He was 37 at the start of the year, 27 now.
Huh.
The Cloud Car Pilot, the twin pod pilot guy, the white dude, the white shirt and the hat and weird stuff. That was a weird hat. It was just like half circle on his head.
Yeah, it was a weird figure to begin with.
He was 37 at the start of the year. He's dropped to 20.
Wow.
I guess it was kind of like scratching my head why he was 37 at the start of the year.
You talking about the Cloud Car Pilot?
Yeah, the pilot.
Yeah, that one, it's all about the community.
Yeah.
The what?
The communicator, because he had two accessories. He had the pilot blaster and the communicator. And that's like, of all of the Star Wars accessories, I think is the smallest one. And I've seen the communicators $30-$40 just for that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that one, that's a weird one. Is it really boils down to weapons? Because I mean, let's be honest, that's where a lot of the money is on a lot of the figures. It really boils down to what condition the weapon is in, because that's a selling point.
Yeah. I should probably at some point look at loose completed figures and compare that to the blaster or whatever accessory they have alone.
Yeah.
And compare it that way.
That'd be interesting side by side for sure.
Just be a lot of work.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Prune Face, who was only in Return of the Jedi for a hot minute. He was 37 at the start of the year. He's 33 now. The Jawa, he was 38 at the start of the year. He's $50 now.
You never have too many Jawas, though. That's the thing. No. They're like stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Never have many.
Darth Vader, I had him at 41 at the start of the year. He's dropped to 32. The Stormtrooper again was 41. He's dropped to 35. And then Anakin Skywalker, it was 41. He's dropped to 35.
Huh.
Wicket, I had him at 42 at the start of the year. He's averaging 51 right now.
Wow.
Leia and her Bounty Hunter Disguise was 43. I have him at 39. So that's not really a big drop. It was just a couple bucks. Luke Skywalker and his Bespin fatigues, good hair, got out the blaster and the lightsaber. I have him at 44. He's now 46. Zuckus, I had him at 45. He's 26 right now.
Huh.
This one was a big drop. Ben Kenobi, with the weapon, the lightsaber, it didn't look like the small filament at the end was broken off or anything like that. He had his cape. I had him at 47 at the start of the year. He's $14 right now on eBay.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And who knows? Maybe people aren't just looking this week. Like there's a lot of variables. So this is just the trend that I'm seeing this week. Leia Organa in a Bespin gown was 48. She's gone up to 58. Luke Skywalker in his Hoth battle gear is 51. He's gone to $12.
Wow.
Han Solo, just regular Han Solo. I didn't pay attention to big head, little head. He was 52. He's gone down to 26. Boba Fett was staying strong. He was 56 at the start of the year, $51 this week. Lumat, I think I messed up previously. I think I did Lumat Paplu, but I was just looking at Paplu. Lumat alone is $119. Paplu has gone from $60 to $91.
Oh, yeah. I know the bows for the Luma and Warrock, those bows are getting out of control. I've seen just the bows for $125.
Right.
Yeah.
So at $119, that's a steal for the figure and the bow.
Yeah.
Leia Organa with the blaster, $61 at the start of the year. I'm seeing her as 45 right now. That's with a good cape with the blaster. So Yoda, complete Yoda, $68 at the start of the year, $58 now. Luke Skywalker, again, there's a lot of bad Lukes out there. There's a lot of bad lightsabers out there. He was 70 at the start of the year. From what I can see, there was just a couple good ones on eBay this week, $54.
Wow.
R2D2 with a good clean sticker, good chrome, $73 at the start of the year, $42 now. Imperial Stormtrooper and the Snowtrooper, basically, Hoth battle gear, $77 at the start of the year, $35 now. Jedi Luke, we're getting to the end here. Jedi Luke was $81, with the cape. I didn't pay attention, snap on, whatever. $81. He's now $61.
Wow.
C3PO with the removable limbs was $85. It's now $38. It's with a good looking netting and all that stuff.
Really? 85?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Let me go back because I said Leia was $45. That was the Hoth version of Leia.
Okay.
Regular version of Leia was $105 at the start of the year. Now it's $75, so it's a little bit more than Hoth version. Sorry about that. Ramba, the Ewok, was $110 at the start of the year. He's now $162. And I think I messed up this Ewok too at the start of the year. I think it said Warrock Ramba. Warrock alone is $245.
Yeah, that one's one of the ones that's been going up a lot.
General Lando was $152 at the start of the year. It's $208.
Jeez.
Barada was $161 at the start of the year. He's now $115 this week. Imperial Luke Skywalker is a stormtrooper. $186 at the start of the year. $355 now with the blaster.
Now you're getting into now. Are you
This
in
is
the last
17?
So these are all last 17 that we're talking right now.
Yeah, Imperial Gunner, $192, $228.
Wow.
Imperial Dignitary was $200 at the start of the year. $131 now, so he's gone down in price. Princess Leia in her combat poncho was $202. She's now down to $88.
Okay, but she's not a last 17.
No,
Yeah.
no, she wasn't. She was
Just
100.
Yeah.
When I did this, I did from lowest to highest.
Uh-huh.
So Leia was 202, even though she wasn't the last 17. And you got your belts, you've got the poncho. You want to make sure your poncho's not frayed. You got the blaster, so all that goes into it. So
Right. And doesn't her helmet come off on that figure
yeah,
too?
the helmet comes off. You got your scraping of the hair and
Yeah.
stuff. So
A lot of variables on that one.
Han Solo in the carbonite, it was 205 at the start of the year, 264. The A-wing pilot was 215 at the start of the year. It's 211 now. A Monomon was 268. He went down to 196.
Wow.
Luke Skywalker in the poncho, which is the last 17, 291. He's now 191.
Jeez.
EV99 was 361. He's now 356.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yak Face was 510. He's gone up to 550. And then the last one, the most expensive one, R2D2 with the pop-up lightsaber was 643 at the start of the year. It's 635. There's really not much variation in the last couple.
Wow.
Jesus.
So at the
yeah.
start, just to wrap it up real quick, at the start of the year, if you were to buy all these figures with their blasters and they look in good condition, it would be $6,382. This week, it would cost you $6,262. So there is a small decrease, like you were saying yesterday, Jerry. People don't have the free money from the government anymore, so
or the time to
not
be online
yeah.
looking for it. Hopefully,
Right.
they're going back to work.
Going back to work or traveling, one of the two. Jeez.
So that's the update on vintage loose pricing for the end of the year.
Wow.
So switching gears here, Jerry, you were at the start, like you were collecting way back when. You once had a first shot Greedo. Talk about what it was like back then collecting. Where did you get your stuff? Where did you see Star Wars?
As far as vintage, I mean, obviously we talked about this yesterday as well about the good old days of toy runs are pretty much over. When it came to any of the new stuff, it was all about the toy run. But for vintage, yeah, it was either Rebel Scum forums, or a guy used to be at Galactic Hunter, Adam May. I don't know if you guys knew Adam. He lived here in Atlanta and had a Star Wars collector club, late 90s, early 2000s. It started as a trade federation, and I think he moved it to a website format. Yeah, that a lot of stuff through the mail. I always say that sort of a theory that I have with this, and one of the reasons that we're so big on buying and selling stuff, these toys through the mail, it goes back to the mail-aways. You think about when you were a kid waiting for that mail-away figure to come in. It was like for a lot of us, our age, that was the first thing you really ever got in the mail that was truly for you. And I think that has some degree of tie to this, to us getting mail calls today. We love getting this stuff in the mail and tearing the box open. This is for me, and I don't know. It's just it's that nostalgia thing. It's weird, but
No, I get excited when I see the Amazon box as much as I was when I got that Emperor Palpatine in the mail.
Yeah, that was it, man. Sending off for the mailaways, those were huge when we were kids. They were monumental moments, and now some of us are getting 5, 6, 7 packages, a package a day, a couple of packages a day.
We're tracking the packages from China.
Exactly.
No, it's in Atlanta today.
It's like a drug, man. Gotta have it. But yeah, it's obviously the prices have changed a lot. I look at prices now and think of what we were seeing in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it's crazy how much things have gone up. I remember thinking, wow, $150 for a double telescoping Luke? That's ridiculous. But how times have changed. Now it's $1,500 for that same figure. It's crazy how the prices have changed. But there are still a lot of people in the hobby that are still around today. Some of them are bigger names, more well-known names, but they were just the guys on Rebel Scum back then. So. But yeah, it's been interesting watching the hobby evolve. I've had two massive sell-offs during all of that. I sold off a lot of stuff. My son was born in 2009 to pay for diapers, and then built some stuff back up. And then 2014, we bought our first house and sold pretty much all my men on cards at that point, and added to our down payment, so, but you never really stop. It evolves, it changes. I consider myself to be sort of a soul collector now, because it's really about the loose toys for me. I love loose toys, because of the nostalgia that it brings is just in its purest form, because that's what we played with, were the toys. I do like the packaging, but it was like we were saying in the last episode, I was today I'm hesitant about men on cards because of the fragility of the bubbles. The bubbles are just, they're starting to break down. They're cracking. You're hearing these nightmare stories all the time of people losing stuff in the mail because the bubble cracked, or the figure, the head popped through the top of the bubble. And that, it's a little too, for me, right? It's just a little too risky, but I am starting to get into more of the boxed items, because it's paper products, and you don't have to worry so much about that. Honestly, the paper stuff's probably going to be around even after the figures themselves start to break down. So I don't really see it. I'm not as hesitant when it comes to like boxed items and things like that.
In early days of collecting, you were able to get a Greedo, first shot or whatever through magazines. So talk a little bit about what that was like. What magazine was that?
Well,
what kind of stuff were offered? What were the prices back then, and what year are we talking?
Yeah, you're talking early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, right around, episode 1, episode 2, that period. Things were sort of on fire, we thought. But yeah, I remember seeing the Earth advertisements and like Toe Marts and, Lee's action figure guides and stuff like that. That was back when it was all about the hard copy price guide, and, you get your monthly magazine. All those things are gone now. But, I remember seeing advertisements for the Earth, and they were one of the early websites that you would go to. And, I remember seeing so many of these things right around that time, as people were starting to unearth a lot of the stuff that was had been hidden away. It was the kids of former employees who had that their parents brought home from the factory or whatever, and those were popping up a lot. Kathy Muir and the folks at the Earth, they really unearthed a lot of this stuff around that time. You were seeing, I remember seeing blue snaggletooth first shots for a couple $100, $250. You could buy Walrus Man. I bought a Walrus Man from them that was I think I paid $2 for it.
Wow.
They had the prototypes of the double telescoping loop sabers still on the sprue, the inner filament and the outer filament still on the sprue. Selling those, and they were a little more expensive. I want to say somewhere around the $500 mark for those. And I've seen those in some of the big collectors' collections now. But back then people just didn't think that much about it. The Greedo that I had, I got it from one of the guys on Rebel Scum, and purchased it from him for $300, and I sold it for $400 and thought I sold it to Brock for $400.
For $400 or $4,000?
Yeah, I sold it to Brock, and I thought I made $100. I did good.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm seeing the prices $3,000, $4,000. So
how long did you have it before you sold it?
I had it for 3 or 4 years, I guess. I sort of got bored with it because it was, with the exception of just some slight variations in the paint color, it looked like the production version. It just didn't have the copyright stamp on the back of the leg or whatever. And I had it for a while. Like I say, my son was born. That was around the time that I sold it. Or we found out we were pregnant, and that's I sold it then. I was like, yeah, I made $100. Yes.
If you would have only held on to it for like 10 more years.
Changed. You could have sent him to college now.
Yeah. I remember when you could buy men on card, maybe a bubble would be dented or something. And you would you get those at Brian's Toys for $120, which was, we thought, highway robbery. It's crazy how it's all changed. You got the last 17 is just obscene what the prices are doing now.
Yeah.
But it's I still say COVID has had a big impact, but I also think that the prices are starting to top out now. I've seen different arguments on what's going to happen to it. Is the market going to start to die down as we get old, and our families are going to be stuck with this stuff and they're not going to know what to do with it? Well, my wife knows. I have a whole list of instructions, but yeah, is it going to die down? And I think the big variable now with the vintage Star Wars stuff is that even though it's not official Disneyana, it's sort of unofficial Disneyana at this point. And you look at the prices of Disney collectibles from the 1950s, they just keep going up. They don't go down, So I don't know. It's hard to say where it's going to go from here.
And it's weird, like the latest not AFA, Hakes auction, the Millennium Falcon was $42,000 in the box.
That's insane.
What, a Tusken Raider was what? 7,000? Or maybe it was a blue Snaggletooth with 7,000. It was just, it's weird, and it seems like investors are starting to try to get into this thing too.
I'll say, I know people from back when the recession hit. I know a couple folks who made more money off their Star Wars toys than they did off their Wall Street investments.
Wow.
So the prices have jumped that much. I do wonder now, with the inflation that we're going through, if people are trying to move into, I would never consider this to be a stable investment by any stretch, but is that the sad state of the monetary system that we're putting our money in Star Wars toys now like we would put our money in gold? or Lego. Is the nostalgia worth more than $1?
To piggyback off of what you're saying, people that are doing that, like going, this is my investment. You can't do that with the stock. You can look at somebody and go, this, I've invested in all this, and you can show it off and you can enjoy it for 10 years. You can't do that with a stock or a bond.
Yeah. It's my son and I are about to start getting into coin collecting. I think we've been dabbling in it, and I think this Christmas it's going to become official. Awesome. But I feel like that's at least a little more stable.
Gold vintage coin collecting or just coin collecting?
Yeah, we're talking bullion here.
Okay. Real coins, not the Power of the Force coins.
Yeah, the real thing.
Although you probably collect that too.
That's one thing. It's funny you mentioned, because the Power of the Force coins, we did see them go up a little bit, but that market has not been so volatile. We've not seen a huge spike. I mean, it's gone up a little bit, but in comparison to some of the other toys, is it more of a specialty niche? I don't know. But yeah, the coins have not just gone out of control like some of the other toys have.
Right. So you have a Sears focus. What is a Sears focus? Why is Sears focus?
Well, it's sort of full
explain this to me like I'm a 4-year-old.
Okay. It's sort of full circle for me, because I back in 2005 I was in graduate school and was trying to come up with some sort of topic for a master's thesis, and I was collecting Star Wars toys at the time, and I was like, boy, it would be great if I could do this on Star Wars toys, but I didn't know how much of an audience I would have in the halls of academia with something like Star Wars toys, even though you got the professor, the sociology professor from up in the Midwest who's on Toys That Made Us now. Apparently he did, but I thought, well, is there something I could go into? And I was looking at things like the blue Snaggletooth, and I was like, well, Sears is pretty interesting. I was looking at it from more of a regional side of things. So my personal interest outside of Star Wars, another hobby is retail history. I've always sort of been interested in the history of retail, and so when it came time to do this master's thesis, I thought, well, that'd be a way that I could sort of tie my toy hobby in to this research or whatever. So I focused on the regional study of Sears in the Southeast United States during the late 1800s, early 1900s, and the history of the evolution of mail order and retail stores and that kind of thing. And I published this master's thesis in 2009, I think it was. and we had the old Sears distribution center that was here in Atlanta over on Ponce de Leon. For us old Atlantans, we called it the Sears building. But that got bought back in about 2010 by a developer called Jamestown, and they were looking for the history of the building, and there was a whole chapter of my research that was focusing on the history of that building. They found my research and reached out to me, and I became sort of the unofficial historian for the building. And they brought me in. A lot of the history that they know of the building, images, has all come from my research. They actually sent me on a couple of research assignments to find stuff for that project, and ended up publishing a book with a photographer who had documented the transition of the building. And so that came out. And so I sort of became the Sears guy. And you know, I've always had this thing for the Cantina Adventure set, the Blue Snaggletooth, because when I was a kid, I remember seeing it in the Sears Wish book, and I always wanted it so much. But I don't know that my dad saw the value in a cardboard playset, even though it was fairly inexpensive. And so I started getting into buying some of the Sears exclusives. And it was a very casual thing until I guess it was it's been a couple of years ago. A guy by the name of Richard Hutchinson, he's a collector. He's a British collector. He actually did an article for Fantha Tracks about some of the Sears exclusives, and that really sort of lit a fire under me at that point. I was, you know, trying to get just the loose stuff, because that's sort of my focus has always been more about the loose toys and actually being able to interact with them. So when that came out, I started looking more at the packaging side of it, because again, you don't have the issues with the plastic bubble deteriorating, cracking, and all that. And so I started getting into more of the packaged items. That's where I'm at now. It's just it's like every focus element of collecting. It's like this rabbit hole that just keeps sort of branching off and going to other areas. But yeah, that's been what's been driving me for over the COVID thing. You know, that's really been a primary focus of my collecting.
So back in the day, would you walk into Sears and find those cardboard play sets, or was that more of a catalog thing you would order? And
it really was a catalog exclusive. I never did get to shop in the building on Ponce. They'd already closed it. They closed in '89, and the city bought it and turned it into City Hall East, and it was a governmental building. You know, I remember parking in their parking deck, going to concerts at Masquerade, or going back into the pit back there. That's where you'd go if your car got towed one night because you drank too much in Buckhead. You would go back there to get your car out of impound. You know, I knew that side of the building, but I never did get to go into the building. They had what I understand, had it was not just a retail store, but then later they had a catalog outlet. And I have talked to people, collectors in the Atlanta area, said you could go in there and they had, you know, figures 99 cents and, you know, just bins full of them or whatever. But yeah, I never got to shop in the store, but yeah, for me, I grew up out in the rural area of South Georgia, and so when I was a kid, that catalog was everything, man. It was like the big catalogs. You'd get the fall catalog. That was where you'd go through in the summertime and would pick out what school clothes you're going to get that fall. And then in the fall, late fall, that's when the mail lady would bring that wish book, and that was next to Christmas morning was. It was the pinnacle. That was the beginning of the holiday season. You know, it started with the wish book, and then you'd have, you know, your different holiday specials, Charlie Brown and those types of things that start hitting Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas. Of course, we got the holiday special in '78. We also got Kiss Meets Phantom of the Park. That was around the same time. CBS, you know, Friday night special, saw it live. You know, Sears catalogs were just a big part of it. I always joke that's back then Santa Claus shopped at Sears. That was 90% of what was under the tree came from the Sears catalog. You'd go through and circle and dog ear the pages and all that stuff. You know, I had the pajamas. I've got a picture that I've got one of my avatars of me on a Christmas morning. I have those pale blue Darth Vader pajamas that they had in the Sears catalog, you know, in the previous fall, and tearing open, you know, all these Star Wars carded figures, and had my little Star World case there on the floor. And yeah, I mean, it was a great time to be a kid. What can you say?
yeah.
I
Is there
remember.
anything? Oh, go ahead, Glenn.
No, I'm just, you're jogging my memory of Sears, because you had the store. You know, you'd order it and you'd get the phone call, your stuff's here, so you had to go to the store to pick it up. And yeah, it was fun times, man.
the school clothes, tough skins. We were the tough skin generation, steel belted jeans, baby.
Yeah.
Things were built to last. I mean, hell, you
Yeah.
would grow out of them. I remember I had tough skins, and mom would try and patch the knees if they'd start wearing or whatever. They'd be like mid calf before those got retired. Because you got your money's worth, man. That was what Sears was all about. They sold value. And honestly, if you look at the history of the company, they really nurtured this sort of working class blue collar customer base. But then in the post World War II era is where they really started to branch out, where you got the Vincent Price art collection and diamonds and fur coats. And a lot of people feel like the company sort of lost touch with their working class roots, but they were always really sort of pushing forward. I always get a lot of questions about how did Sears not get in on the internet action sooner and sort of maintain their relevance. But what a lot of people don't realize is that Sears was actually at the forefront of that. Before America Online in the early 90s, Sears was already piloting a project that they were working on with IBM called Prodigy. And it was like an online service, and they piloted in a few markets. Atlanta was one of them. And they were branching out into things like Discover Card and Allstate Insurance. They were really diversifying the company a lot. But yeah, that Prodigy thing, I always say for folks who don't understand it, Prodigy was sort of the Betamax to AOL's VHS. Sears put too many of their eggs, and they spent billions on this platform. And then America Online came out, and everybody shifted that direction. I guess it was more user friendly. But by that point, Sears had invested so much in it, they refused to sort of say uncle and walk away from it. And by that point, they were already heading down a bad path. I would say 93 was the big year, because 93 was the last year of the Wish Book. They stopped the catalog in 93, but that was also the year that Walmart surpassed Sears in annual sales that year. So 93 was sort of a big monumental moment for that company.
And bringing it up to 2020, the Sears by Us in what's that mall? Just closed?
Town Center.
Yeah. Just closed last year.
Yeah.
Does Sears exist anywhere now?
Well, I think it was a week ago today, they closed the last store in their home state of Illinois. There's no Sears stores operating in Illinois now. And they also closed the last Sears store in Hawaii, which was on Maui in Kahului, at the Kahului Mall. They shut that one. So there's no Sears in Hawaii now. They closed Sears Canada. That was actually happened before the Sears announced bankruptcy, because my phone was ringing off the hook. I did a bunch of radio interviews with like Sears radio or Canadian radio stations asking about Sears, because they had a big audience there. They had branched out into Mexico and Latin America. They were a huge company once upon a time, but they took their eye off the ball, I guess. I've interviewed a lot of the old executives from the company, and they all said the same thing, that Sears had this too big to fail mentality. And I know one interview in particular, I talked to a guy, he said that he was a regional director in the Southeast, had gone to a big corporate board meeting up in Chicago, and in his speech had mentioned something about Walmart, and he went back to sit down at the table with all the other bigwigs, and one of the older, pillars of the company kicked him under the table and leaned over and said, "I don't want to hear anything else about Walmart. They're a discount company, and they're not competition."
Yeah, they had their head in the sand.
And look what happened. So, but it's sort of interesting now watching Amazon, because Amazon's doing the same sort of business model. They're following the Sears playbook from 100 years ago. And they started with mail order. Now Amazon's branching out into retail, which is exactly how Sears did it.
Wow. So what is a Sears Star Wars focus? And before you jump into it, like the boxes themselves, I know like in the 1990s, the early 2000s, they would slap a sticker on it and say Walmart exclusive, Kmart exclusive, whatever it was. Is that identifiable on these boxes? Or
the way that it worked is really, if you look, there was actually a pattern. So during a movie year, you would have your initial wave of toys would come out, and that would be sort of the big mass push. With the first movie, it was the first 12, and then there was a pause. And then in 1979, we get a second push that included the Cantina aliens, Greedo, Hammerhead, Snaggletooth, and Walrus Man, and you got Power Droid, R5D4, Death Star Droid, and Luke X-Wing. That was the second wave of the first movie. That tended to be when Sears would get on board as that sort of second half of the year. They'd have the initial push of the movie year, the first half leading up to the movie, they would have a wave. And then in the fall, after the summer movie phenomenon died down, then they would do a second push going into the holiday season, and they would always be a new wave of figures. And that was when Sears would step in. They did the same thing with Empire Strikes Back. You know, they had the first 10 that came out, and then of course you got number 11 was Yoda, which was almost its own phenomenon. And that happened, I believe, in the summer after the movie came out, because it was sort of like the blacked out Ewoks on the Return of the Jedi card. You know, they wanted to keep Yoda under wraps until after the movie had premiered. And so Yoda came out sort of late summer of 1980, right after the movie, so they could keep that character quiet. But then that fall, Sears had their new cardboard playset, which was the Cloud City playset, and it had 4 of the next wave of figures, which was the Han Bespin, Ugnaught, Dengar, and Lobot. And then they did the same thing, actually did a third wave of Empire, because they were really putting some steam into it by that point. And that's where you get the Rebel Command Center that had the Luke Hoth, the AT-AT Commander, and R2 sensor scope. So all of those second wave figures would premiere, and you could only get it through the Sears channels, whether that be with a playset, or sometimes they would also sell them in a separate, just white mailer box with the figures bagged in the box. And there's also a whole section of the collecting community. Ron Salvatore is really into a lot of the mail order history and stuff as well. And he actually has a website that has all of the mail order catalog sets in these mailer boxes. They were not on cards, but came in mailer boxes in bag figure form. So yeah, they did that for Rebel Command Center. And then when Return of the Jedi came out, they repurposed the the Droid Factory. They redid that as Jabba's dungeon, and they actually released that twice. They did it with a second wave of figures, which was Klaatu, Skiff Guard, Nikto, and 8D8, which was with that one. And then they released that same mold in a little bit different color variation, almost as a preview for Power of the Force, because the first 3 figures that you could get were a Man-Man, Verada, and EV-99. And those are almost like previews because those actually came out before they premiered the Power of the Force packaging. It was actually sort of like those 2 Ewoks, Lumot and Poplu, which were sort of the transition period where they were going from the Return of the Jedi line into the new Power of the Force line. They also did the line art box for the Jabba's playset, but that was about it. That was really all the major ones. They also did they re-released the Imperial Troop Transport as the Imperial Cruiser, sans electronics. It was just the vehicle, and had black buttons where the red ones had been on the initial release. But a lot of times it was just like retreads. You know, they would try and use it to sort of keep the line fresh during that fall winter period. So that was where most all of those Sears exclusives came from.
We have to talk about Blue Snag, because that's sort of the pinnacle of Sears mess ups, or, you know, because that's the only place you could get it. And I mean, we all know the story, but you tell it to us as sort of like a Sears guy, because I mean, you I'm sure you know parts that we don't know.
Well, they did the cardboard Cantina adventure set, and that was the vehicle to preview the new Cantina creatures. And to date, I still say they're my absolute favorite characters from the original vintage line. Kenner took such liberty with the developers and those vivid day glow colors that they did those characters in. you almost want to eat them, those bright vivids and blues and oranges at the time. It was so 1970s, Brady Bunch kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
But,
Greedo's got that lime green.
yeah, it was cool. I always think about Bobby Sharp in Plastic Galaxy. He was talking about how, they were these tertiary characters. They were secondary. They were just background. But of all of the characters that they did, I feel like those had a very unique 1970s Kenner toy look, but they had so much play value in that you could have your own adventures with those characters. They were not, those sort of pillars of the movie. They were these background characters. And even then we knew, and I think today we're seeing sort of an after effect of, you see folks like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni doing Mandalorian. They grew up playing with those same toys. Those toys elicited so much imagination out of kids. And I think we're still seeing that today with our generation as adults. We've still got that imagination from playing with those characters. But they put it out, as like I say, as a vehicle. They did the Cantina Adventure set. And of course, Blue Snag was the only way you could get it was with the adventure set. Although they also did a 2-pack, and they also did a 4-pack. So they did a 4-pack that had all 4 of the creatures with Blue Snaggletooth. They did a 2-pack of Blue Snaggletooth and Greedo. And then it was right around the time they did the 4-pack, they actually transitioned to the Red Snaggletooth there. And there was, I believe, Christmas of '79. If you look at that wish book, you could actually see pictures of Blue Snaggletooth and Red Snaggletooth came in a 21-pack. That was like the biggest box that they did. It was a Christmas of '79. They did a 21-pack mailer box, 21 figures in bags, had Blue Snaggletooth and Red Snaggletooth in the same box together with a lot of the other main characters.
Wow.
Those are worth a fortune.
Yeah, were they just trying to clear inventory? Like, just throw it all in a box and sell it to the kids. They don't care.
That was it. They even at one point were putting proofs of purchases on the sides of the mailer box. So even if you got the discounted, mailer box or preview, whatever, you could still cut out your proofs of purchase, because that was a hot commodity. That was like currency on the playground when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Those pops, man, those were proof of purchase that was the keys to the kingdom.
So out of all those playsets that you've mentioned, do you have everything that you're looking for now? Do you just finish it?
I've got all the loose stuff now. Like I say, I'm transitioning into the package versions, which it sort of softens the blow, because when I buy the package version, then I can just sell my loose version and help offset some of
the cost.
So that part helps, But I'm currently looking at a couple different things that I want to upgrade and get the package versions, because that's with the carded figures, obviously you don't want to take the bubbles off the figures, and obviously there's this huge movement within the hobby. Oh, you don't open the sealed figures, but with the box pieces, you can piece those together and have a really nice set displayed in the box. And I like to have them in the slide bottom acrylic cases. I'm actually waiting for one from Ian right now for my Rebel Command Center, so that you can open it and take the box out. Of course, white gloves all the way. You take the box out, you open it, you pull it all out. You see, the little mini catalog with all the advertisements and the packaging and the inserts and all of that stuff. It just, I don't know, man. That's my new crack these days. So love that. After getting the Cloud City play set, I really, that was like the pinnacle, man, because that thing was it's in such pristine condition. So that's my excitement.
Any variants that collectors should be looking out for with those play sets?
Really just the Blue Snaggletooth. That's the big one. I have noticed that I think what it is, I know Jason Knox up in New Jersey, Jason and I we chat back and forth quite a bit. We met at the first IC convention, and he and I, we sort of take the budget approach of like sort of piecing things together. I say budget because in the long run, you end up paying more if piecing it together. It's just easier, I guess, to wrap your head around the cost when you're buying a component at a time. But I think a lot more people do that than we realize. And sometimes you end up like what we were talking about with the weapons earlier, where you end up where the weapon costs more than the loose complete figure does in some cases. Where you start seeing the right now thing is like inserts and the mailer cartons, those white little boxes or brown boxes that they shipped in. That's where the price is at. I've seen the Cloud City playset, just the white mailer box with no figures in the bags or anything, just the box. Ryan sent me a picture when you guys were in Cincinnati. Somebody was asking $350 for just the box, just the white mailer box.
Wow.
I saw one sell on Deal or No Deal. I came close to getting it. I think I topped out at $275, and the winning bid went $280. So $280, and that's selling for just the white mailer box. The same thing, with the inserts, the packaging inserts, which, let's be honest, you rarely see those. I don't understand why the price is, but it's that completest thing with people. Everything has to be just all original and perfect. So, but yeah, I mean, as far as variants and stuff, like I say, just really the blue snaggletooth. I did notice that the line art box, it's corrugated box as opposed to the carton box like a lot of the Star Wars toys are packaged in. Sears did a white corrugated box with two-color black and green for the Jabba playset, the Jabba the Hutt playset with the throne. Those are actually starting to fetch quite a bit of money. It's the same stuff inside. It's the exact same insert, catalog, all the toys, everything's packaged the same in the box, but just the box itself is pulling a good bit. But yeah, Blue Snag's where it's at, man. He's iconic. Like Glenn said, he's synonymous with Sears Star Wars, which is sort of interesting. As I say, that's what really sparked my whole push into my research on Sears was that figure, because just, I don't know, those Cantina figures, man, it was such a big part of my childhood. And you guys know, I actually have a vintage Greedo action figure tattooed on the back of my leg. So that was like one of my favorite toys when I was a kid. I loved it. Mm-hmm. He's the epitome of when you would think Martian, that bright green head, man. It's just, that's my image in my head. When you say Martian, that's what I think of. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you found anything cool at Sears, but if you were doing it all through a catalog, there was no real.
Yeah, most everything we bought was catalog. I mean, I did have like the Star World case. I've been sort of buying some of the Sears specifically branded stuff. I got one of the star figure action with the cheesy 70s print logo. I tell you, one of the things I'm looking at, and there's actually, maybe I shouldn't say where I've seen it, but there's one for a decent price online, and it's it was a plastic covered playset that was marketed in I think it was the 79 catalog, might have been in 78 as well. It's called the Star Fortress, and it had a little snap, and you open it, and it would sort of open up like a pop-up book, and would be these like play environments for space action figures. I just remember that thing from the catalog. I always wanted one, and I've seen one. I found one online. It's complete. Everything's in great shape. There's no tears or any damage or anything. That might be one of my next big purchases.
That's awesome.
It's just the nostalgia. I'm a nostalgia junkie. I am.
Right.
Music, movies, you name it. It's always the 80s for me. So
yeah, but yeah, I remember when because that East Ponce building, because Atlanta owned it, and when they was selling it and selling off all their crap that they had inside of it, huh?
All their junk, yeah. It was
all their junk, yeah. I remember. I just went in there because I'm like, it's the only time I'm gonna be able to see this cool building before they do whatever they're gonna do with it. It was kind of cool to go in there, but yeah, they were selling desks and chairs and tables, and you knew it was nothing to what it should once was, but it was just cool. Yeah. And
I came across a lot of cool stuff. I got some artifacts out of the building, some old blueprint, and things like that. I just, I think most Atlanta was getting ready for them to just bulldoze the thing. Mm-hmm. So there was, they had the dry cleaners, all the chemicals from all those years of the dry cleaners leached underneath the building. And if you don't know, the building was built on these old springs. That's where the name Ponce de Leon came from. Is there were these springs that used to come out of the side of the railroad and went underneath the building. got in underneath the building and polluted those underground springs. And so it was like this environmental mess underneath the building. And when this developer got wind of that, it was like a hot potato. He couldn't get it off his hands fast enough. So that's when the other developer came in and bought it. But
It was a different time back then. You could just pollute whatever the hell you wanted.
exactly. Especially if you were a major employer like Sears.
Right.
What do we do with this extra ammonia, sir? Put it in the drinking water.
Dump it down the drain. It'll be fine.
Feed it to the fish. They'll be fine. We have this mercury. Give it to the cows.
Yeah. Well, speaking of mercury, I remember like as a kid, I was in Boy Scouts and we were in like the local, just this break room of this building. This local company would let us use their break room. They'd have like little vials of mercury sitting on the table so you could play with them.
Oh my God.
And everybody's like, leave that alone. Don't mess with that. That's poison. And I'm like, I want to play with it. What is it doing?
What do you mean it absorbs through my skin?
Right.
In Syracuse, there was a chemical company right off the side of Onondaga Lake, which is like a giant, beautiful lake in the middle of Syracuse. And the company was just dumping mercury into the water. And there's like about a foot of soot and sediment that was mercury. And Honeywell came in and they bought the company and they had to take care of the cleanup operation. And they were sifting through and pulling out all that stuff. But I mean, it's a mess.
Jeez. That was like set down 17th Street, Atlantic Station. That used to be Atlantic Steel. Mm-hmm. When they started that development, they took 18 inches of soil off of that entire property and relocated it because it was all polluted from all those years of the steel mill there.
Wow.
Yeah. You don't think about those things, man.
No.
We have no idea.
And
you wonder why back then. That's why we didn't get so sick.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, shoot, I remember my grandfather, you used to do oil and you had a ditch. You'd roll the car over the ditch, get in the ditch, pop it,
dump it in there.
Dump it right on the ground.
Yeah. I saw it's like a 1950s magazine article. It's like a Popular Mechanics or something. It was like a place to dump your motor oil. You dig a 3-foot hole in the backyard with like hole diggers and put gravel in it. You just pour it down the hole.
The earthworms will take care of it.
Yes.
They'll process all that.
Wow. Those were the days. You could do whatever the hell you wanted.
I tell my students there was a river in Ohio in the 1970s caught on fire. The water was burning.
God.
Pollution. What do you mean pollution? There's such thing.
Pollution's made up of liberal tears.
Oh my God.
Well, thank you for being on the show, Jerry. That was incredible. Love learning.
The magic, how it happens.
I love learning about that Sears stuff.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I know you'll do your magic with the editing. That's where it all comes together, is the editing.
Editing? What's that?
Glenn doesn't do editing anymore.
I've gotten, when we first started, I'd spend hours editing like any little thing. And now it's like, oh, we made a mistake. I write it down and everything else stays in.
There's been a couple times where I tell Glenn, cut that out. And then I hear the podcast and I'm telling Glenn, cut that out. And he doesn't cut it out.
Oops. I cut out the important stuff that you're like telling me secrets. Unless I've let some secrets out, then that's my bad. But I did.
No, nothing like that. It's when I like mess up or I burp and I'll be like, cut that out. You keep it in.
I did cut out the last
Glenn,
burp.
You do the editing?
Yes.
Okay.
I do the video editing.
Mind-numbing, man. I've done a lot of interviews and stuff, like oral interviews. You have to like record it on tape, and cleaning that crap up is just so hard.
Yeah.
Do you plan on like writing a book about Sears? I mean, you've got all this knowledge, and
I would. The problem is that the archives, which is where most of the material is, the primary source material, they shut down the archives in 2013. They had one archivist. She was in charge of all the Sears archives and all the Kmart archives because they bought each other out by that point. They had this one woman, Arlene May was her name, sweetest lady. She'd worked with them for years, and they laid her off in 2013. And basically, they've got just warehouses on that campus in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. And there's no way to access it. It's all just sitting in there, and there's no facilitator to be able to access the material. I keep hoping that they'll bequeath those to University of Chicago, because they have all the Julius Rosenwald papers, which Rosenwald was the guy that took over when Richard Sears left. He was the second. He was sort of the philanthropist, progressivist. He was the guy who worked with Booker T. Washington and started the Rosenwald schools and all that stuff. That's a whole other chapter of their history. But University of Chicago has all of his archives, and I keep thinking maybe Sears will donate their archives. But even if they do that, they'll have to recatalog everything. And you're talking, their archive warehouse looks like from the scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
You're not going to archive and recatalog all that stuff very quickly. And that's the thing, is right now the iron's hot. People are interested in Sears because they know that it's bankrupt and they're going out of business and all, but you can't access the stuff. So, I mean, I've done 2 trips up there and worked in their archives, and, you know, gone through they have a whole library of first print catalogs, all their catalogs. You can go in any year and pull it and go to the catalog room and look at it. I mean, it's really cool. And I'd love to do something. Like, I thought about years ago doing my doctorate, but I'm getting too old for that shit. So just do a book. But yeah,
Just do a book on the history of Sears.
I mean, there's definitely been plenty of them done. And there's
there?
Oh yeah, there was one that was done in the mid 1950s when they were really at their pinnacle, called Catalogs Encounters, and that was the Bible for years and years until, interestingly enough, the guy who is the CEO for what's the online reader platform? What's that company? Guy's name's Katz. Is it William Cat? No, it's not William. That's the greatest American hero. I can't think of the guy's name.
Clark Kent.
He's the damn it. What is Amazon's downloadable book platform?
No,
he's the CEO for that company.
The thing with the reader, that looks like an iPad.
Yeah. He did another big book called
there you go.
The Big Store
Ding,
in the
ding,
1980s. And that's been the last big overview book that's been done. But there's so many avenues of that company. Like I say, there towards the end, they were breaking off into so many things. They were doing Discover Card. They started that. They started Allstate Insurance. They started that Prodigy thing, which was the predecessor to AOL. I mean, they were doing so much stuff, you know. And then you've got a whole branch of Sears history is just the Sears homes that you could buy from the catalog.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Buys just in that. There's a town down near St. Petersburg. The entire town is Sears houses. You know, they were bought in a catalog. They sent them to a rail station. They took a truck and drove it from the rail station to an empty lot and built it like freaking erector set.
Oh.
I mean, they sold everything, you know. Music, there's a whole element of Sears history in music, because you look at your earliest blues musician, Johnson got his first guitar from Sears.
Yep.
You know, early radio, they were one of the originators of radio in the mid 1920s. They had their own radio station in Chicago, WLS, for world's largest store. Country music, a lot of people don't know this. Country music basically started in the tower of that building in Atlanta. Before Nashville became the country music capital, that tower was where they were pulling all the hillbilly musicians from this part of the country. They would come to that tower and do live broadcasts of this lunchtime show they used to do in the 20s called Radio Farmers Democracy. It was Radio RFD, and they would do a lunchtime thing, and it was like helpful hints around the farm, and they play freaking hillbilly music, and it all came out of that tower. And then eventually it was a guy that worked with the National Barn Dance, which was their hillbilly music show, relocated to Nashville, and that's how Nashville became the country music capital.
Wow.
So I mean, there's so many avenues of Sears history people don't even realize. FFA and 4-H, that was all Sears. They helped start all of those school organizations. You know, they helped I mean, they did so much stuff. So yeah, there's a lot. It would be hard to do a single book and do really any of it justice. I mean, it would have to be a 2-volume thing to
Yeah.
get all in there. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe one day we'll see.
Maybe
what
in your
happens.
retirement.
Yeah.
What's that?
Maybe in your retirement.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Jerry's gonna be like, F that.
I'm retired. Forget that. I'm done.
Yeah. I'm going
Yeah,
to Disney
well,
World and
Yeah, with my line of work, man, no doubt. And it's like if I can manage to survive to 30 years of service in a classroom and don't manage to die in front of that classroom, and can live to retirement, yeah, I won't look back. I'm gonna have a cocktail in my hand by noon every day. And like we were saying yesterday, I'm gonna pretty well say whatever the fuck I want. I earned that right. But yeah, we'll see. One day.
Well, thank
maybe.
you. Thank you for
man.
coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. And like I said, I know some of it got long-winded in places that you're not going to offend me or anything if you edit some of that stuff out. Because yeah, I can freaking wax poetic about this shit till the cows come home. So if you edit any of that stuff out, it's not going to offend me. I did 10 years in food service industry, man. There's nothing you can do to hurt my feelings. I say it was all preparation for public education. Yeah, it's nothing a kid can say that's going to hurt my feelings today because I've had it all hurled at me before.
Awesome.
That was fun, guys. I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks
Anything
for coming
else,
on.
Glenn?
No, I'm good, man.
Me too. I've
All right.
kept you guys away from it's 12:15 and day drinking started 15 minutes ago. So
Yes.
But it doesn't seem like it. It's been fun. Seriously,
Yeah,
just
it's been
sitting here
awesome.
chatting.
yeah. Well, thanks.
Awesome.
Cool.
All
Well,
right.
guys, I'm going to go do some cleaning. Y'all have a good afternoon. All
You
right?
do the same, man.
This is the way.
See you later.
Later.